welcome back to the channel. If you saw the last video, you know this is one of a series of videos about skid control, how to control the car when it starts to slide or skid about on the road. Normally that will be unexpectedly, and in this video I'm going to look at how to control a skid that's caused by excessive acceleration. So in any car, you don't have to have a 410 brake horsepower M2 for this. In any car it is possible for you to use too much acceleration and there to be maybe a low grip road surface, and the result is that you get wheel spin, or you get the driven wheels spinning faster than the car is moving forwards. Now that type of skid, to be honest, this is probably one of the easiest skids for you to control. As one of the traditional principles of skid control techniques is that you need to recognise what's the cause of the skid and take the cause away. And if the cause of the skid is that the wheels are spinning because you're accelerating too hard on the road surface that you're on, well, it's very easy to take the cause of the skid away. And the cause of the skid is pressing the accelerator too much, and all you need to do is lift off the accelerator. Simple. And actually that tends to be your natural reaction as well. So again, even for people who are not drivers, who are not into this, you know, your average drivers, you will still find it relatively easy to control wheel spin. But there are systems fitted to cars as well these days that will help you to control wheel spin. Traction control specifically. Traction control and stability control are two linked systems, but they're slightly different. Traction control was developed not long after ABS, really. I can remember traction control coming in 20-25 years ago, something like that. Whereas some of the more modern stability controls are much more sophisticated and have a wider range of controls. But we'll look at that in another video. In this one we're going to look at how to control wheel spin with and without traction control switched on. The other thing about traction and stability controls is they are switchable. So unlike the previous video where I was having to sort of pretend that the car didn't have ABS to show you how to do cadence braking, in this car I can switch it on and off and show you the difference between driving the car with and without traction control switched on. So with traction control switched off, or in a car without traction control, we're on this low grip road surface, so it's a rubbery road surface, it's got some oil down on it, it's not got much grip, but that allows me to demonstrate this at sort of safe speeds without putting us or the car at risk. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to set off, and I'm going to be a little bit juicy with the accelerator compared with, you know, the grip that we've got. A little bit careless, if you like, with the accelerator, and let's see what happens. Put it into drive. So very quickly, immediately actually, as we set off, the power and the torque overcomes the grip that's available to the rear wheels, and the wheels spin up. And the rev, we're in first gear, the rev counter's revving right around to 6,500, 7,000 revs, and yet all we're doing is crawling along forwards very, very slowly at 1, 2, 3 miles an hour. So how do we overcome that? If we haven't got stability or traction control, how do we overcome it? Well, it's really, really simple. Don't be as juicy on the accelerator. Treat it like there's an egg underneath it. Be really, really gentle with the accelerator. Dead easy to set off here, very straightforward, just by being really gentle with that accelerator pedal. So again, the stability control's off, but if I gently press the accelerator, well, we set off with no wheel spin at all, and that's on a really, really low grip surface. So the trick, if it is a trick, is, you know, if you recognise, and like we said in an earlier video, it's always better to avoid the skid in the first place than end up controlling it. If you recognise that you're on a low grip surface, just be really gentle with that accelerator. The car will move away, you know, even on ice and snow. And if you go back through my old videos, I'll put a link in for this particular video. I did a video a while ago in the M135i where we were driving in ice and snowy conditions, and as long as you're gentle on that accelerator, then it'll be absolutely fine. But what about stability control and traction control? What does that do? Well, traction control effectively does what you're doing. It recognises when the rear wheels are starting to spin up. It's like the opposite of ABS, if you like. It recognises when the rear wheels are starting to spin up, and it does something about it. It removes the cause of the skid. So the first thing it will do is cut the throttle. So even though I might have mashed the accelerator into the floor, the traction control will pull back on the throttle. It'll hold the throttle back, and it'll prevent those wheels from spinning. If that's not working, it will also apply some brakes as well, and it'll apply some brakes just to the driven axle. So it's got a range of control available to you that you might not have. So let's give that a go. I'm going to turn the traction control back on. Now the thing to remember about traction control and stability control is when you get in the car, it's on. If the light's on the dashboard, or if you press the switch and the light comes on the dashboard, you've turned it off. That's to warn you that it's turned off. So when you get in the car, leave everything alone, and those stability controls are there in the background, ready to step in when you need them. So this time I'm going to put the car into first gear to drive. And I'm just going to again, I'm going to mash the accelerator into the floor, and let's see what happens. So the car, it's recognising that I want to set off quickly and I want to accelerate quite quickly, but you can see that the rev counter isn't going all the way around the revs. The wheels aren't spinning up. The car itself is holding back a little bit on the acceleration. It's preventing the car from spinning the wheels up, and it's a really good system. That sets us off really effectively there. If I try and set off as quick as that without the system switched on, I'm going to struggle. I'm going to struggle to match the car, because the car is measuring loads of parameters very, very quickly in the computer, and it's making loads and loads of calculations, and it's adjusting the throttle and the brakes, you know, in milliseconds really to adjust or to prevent those wheels from spinning up. There is one other little trick that I want to show you while we're doing this, and that is if you're ever stuck in a situation where you've got one side of the car maybe on a grass verge and it's wet and muddy, or there's ice and snow under one side of the car but you've got grip on the other side of the car. Now if you've got a normal car with a normal differential, this car has a lock-in differential, so it's slightly different, but most cars have a normal open differential. What will happen is that all the drive will go to the wheel that hasn't got any grip. It'll just spin that wheel. That's the way the differentials work. So you can end up with one side of the car on perfectly good tarmac or perfectly good grippy surface, but the other side of the car just spinning the wheels and not being able to move the car off. And there's a little technique that I'm going to show you, and it's left foot braking. I want you to imagine now, I'll turn the stability control off. I want you to imagine that we are, you know, we've got a grass verge on the left-hand side here with very little grip, but we've got grip on the right-hand side. If I'm in that situation, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put my left foot on the brake, put the car into drive, and I'm going to accelerate. But as I'm accelerating, I'm just going to gently hold that left foot brake and just dib the left foot on the brake. And what that does is that's braking the wheel that's spinning. It's braking the inside wheel that might be spinning, but at the same time it's sending some drive to the other wheel. So what you're effectively doing is mimicking what stability and traction control would do in a car if it's got that fitted. So if you're ever stuck on a grass verge, or if you're ever stuck on where you've got some ice and snow or something slippery on one side of the car and you can't get the car moving, just cover the brake with your left foot and just dab it a little bit. It's not very smooth, you'll see us moving in the car like this, but it really genuinely works. I was taught this by the guys over in Russia when I went to Siberia a few years ago, driving on ice and snow. It's a very common technique that's taught to people over there. Just use your left foot on the brake and spread the torque across the driven axle, and that will really help you. So that's from stationary, but if you're really hoofy with your right foot, if you're not careful, you can get wheel spin, especially in a more powerful, a more sporty car. You can get wheel spin just while you're driving along if you're on a slippery road surface, especially in a situation where perhaps you're moving into an overtake and you suddenly want a burst of acceleration. So you've got to be careful with that as well. Again, I've got the stability control off at the moment. If I'm rolling along at maybe 20 miles an hour. If I really hoof the accelerator now, we get wheel spin. You know, you can really get yourself into a lot of trouble doing that. Imagine doing that on the road, on the public road, in a situation where you're in the middle of an overtake and your vehicle's coming towards you. I suppose first of all, that's why I would always leave these systems switched on if you've got them fitted in the car. But if you haven't, this is where you've got to be really careful with that right foot on the accelerator. So first tip really in those situations is leave the systems on. If not, get a feel for the grip that the car's got, get a feel for how much acceleration you're going to get. We really want to avoid that situation where the wheels start to spin, especially in a rear wheel drive car, because it will flick sideways very quickly. And the other thing is as well, you notice that I put quite a lot of steering input when the wheels started to spin up then. As soon as that rear axle starts spinning up, the car will start moving from side to side, and I need to get those steering inputs in very quickly to control the car. So the first thing I'm doing to control it is lifting off the gas, regaining some grip at the rear end, but also putting some steering control in as well to keep the car going in a straight line. So that's how to control a car that's starting to skid because the wheels are spinning because of excessive acceleration. Hope you've enjoyed the video. It is one of a series of videos about skid control. So if you've not been here before, subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up. Go and have a look at the website as well, reglocal.com. There's loads more information there about advanced riding and driving. Information about the books. I've got a couple of books that are on Amazon. And also information about how you can get a day's driver or rider coaching with me. If you fancy coming out and having some advanced driver or rider coaching, drop us an email and we'll sort something out. But for now, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.